Welcome to Democratic Television, a program of the Santa Clara County Democratic Party that brings perspectives, insights, and attitudes of our always thoughtful Democratic guests. Our focus today is on local government, and our guest is Dominic Caserta from the Santa Clara City Council. Welcome, Dominic.
Thank you for inviting me, Bill. I'm really excited about being here with you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Dominic, it's often of interest to our viewers the background of folks who've come into city government and public life. And so would you mind telling a little bit about where you were born, where you grew up, and what aspects of your background you feel brought you to public service?
So my mom and dad's side came through Portugal and Italy in the 1800s, so I'm a fifth-generation Santa Clara County resident.
Wow.
Yeah. My dad's side San Jose, my mom's side Santa Clara.
Wow.
And you know, my mom always talked in reverence about Bobby Kennedy especially. And I grew up as a kid in the 80s with Ronald Reagan. Now, I didn't know how bad his politics were, but just a powerful image on television, and that really resonated with me. And my mom used to always say, so much given, so much is expected. Now, we didn't have a lot of money, but we had a lot of warmth and love in the family. And I went to St. Francis Cabrini, which is in the Cambrian area of San Jose. And then my first experience with the Jesuit education was at Bellarmine College Preparatory for High School in the Rose Garden. And they instilled in us being men for others and serving your community. And then after college, I decided to take a year off, and I was going to go to law school. And I get a call from my Spanish teacher, come on down, which was San Bernardino, and teach.
Wow.
Well, 20 years later, I'm still in the classroom teaching.
Fabulous.
Yeah, so my education level and my professional experience as an educator led me into public service. Mike Honda was running for Congress in 2000 against Assemblymember Jim Canine at the time. And Mike I was a big supporter of, and we helped him with students in his campaign. And the next thing you know, I'm speaking at Cesar Chavez Park for Mike, and someone in the audience was a Santa Claran and said, gosh, you speak so well. Next thing you know, I'm running for city council, and I'm now in my third term in the vice mayor.
Wow, that's great. Now, tell me a little bit about Bellarmine, because it's like a factory for local government, at least on the male side, right? There's Sam Liccardo, the mayor of San Jose, and Dave Cortese on the board of supervisors. What would you say it's about Bellarmine that's producing so many local government?
Yeah, there was a bet going on that Bellarmine's going to be happy, whoever won the mayor's race, because Sam and Dave were both from Bellarmine.
Exactly, I remember that.
Yeah, and Bellarmine really teaches from, right when the first day there that, you have support from your family. Other families maybe don't have those resources, and that you really need to be a person for others. And leadership isn't just about making money, it's about serving the community.
Wow.
And it just really instilled in us about being, serving your community. And I got involved in, student government at Bellarmine, and then, decided to go to Bellarmine North, which is Santa Clara University, a few years later.
Yes.
And was on the student senate there. And, at the time, Cesar Chavez, and we were a lot of local schools that were getting active on, boycotting grapes and cafeterias and stuff of that nature. Yeah. So we did that and had him, at our school. And so things of that nature, brought me to where I am now.
What was it like to have Cesar Chavez speak at your school? He's a hero of mine. I really read a lot about him and have seen a number of documentaries. It must have been very interesting to have him there.
I mean, not a very tall figure, but such a... when you walk in there, his aura of humility, but also service. And he was like a rock star. Yeah. It was like he and the Dalai Lama. I mean, those two.
It must have been to your parents, too, right? Because back in the Bobby Kennedy days, he was involved in all of that.
Absolutely. He and Bobby, what his support really helped, then Senator Kennedy win the Democratic nomination. But we know what happened later that night. But that was a great moment for he and Bobby.
Yes. Well, so it's interesting. It's interesting that experience of being at Bellarmine. Did that? It sounds like that's a continuation of your connection to Santa Clara, not your schools were in your college was in Santa Clara. But did that just kind of keep you close to home, and that's kept you there, or? Yeah,
I'm really close, especially to my mother, and I was able to live on campus at Santa Clara University, but I was able to come home anytime for a meal.
Oh, nice.
And then I traveled abroad. My junior year was the '96 presidential campaign. I went to school at American University, and we had an internship program, and I got involved working on Capitol Hill, and so that was a great practical experience. And then in '97 I graduated. I'm lucky enough to be one of my few friends from Santa Clara that still live in the city, and actually a homeowner in Santa Clara. And we're literally, my wife, I, and my son are literally across the street from the university.
Wow, that's nice. Yeah, that's fabulous. That's great.
So we're having our 20-year reunion coming up, Bill, this fall. So
great.
The party station's going to be at my backyard.
Oh, fabulous. It's nice that it stays close to home.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you found yourself in a career in education, because I think teachers also are very well represented in the ranks of elected officials, especially local elected officials.
That's right.
And so it sounds like you do sort of conceive of your professional involvement as a teacher also being part of service.
Yeah, so I actually teach, go figure, American government and economics, so it's
fabulous.
right up my wheelhouse.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. And then I always tell my students 90% of life is showing up, and in politics it's not only voting, but it's getting involved.
Right.
And I was in the classroom talking about campaigns, and I said, you know what, my students are right. You talk about them, you bring these candidates in here, when are you going to have your name on the ballot, Dominic, or Mr. Caserta at the time?
Yes.
So in 2002 I was elected to my first term on the city council, and was reelected in 6, and then in Santa Clara we have soft term limits, and I was elected again in 2014.
Wow, wonderful.
Yeah.
So are you taking that first step? How did you make that decision? Because it is, I mean, one can be very interested in local government and not yet want to put one's own name on the line. How did you make that decision?
It was really spontaneous. I gave a speech at Cedar Chavez Park. Nancy Biagini, who was a big leader in one of the local CWA, was there.
Right.
And I had no idea exactly, how to get canvassing lists and dialing for dollars, and going to organizational groups, and you just gotta trial by fire, right? Just do it. And I was lucky enough to have a lot of people help me out, because as Jimmy Carter said, doing it alone is lethal in politics. You need people to help you.
Yes, there's no way to do it successfully.
Yeah, and then we were elected in 2002. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Good. In teaching government, what grade levels do you teach at?
So I teach seniors at Santa Clara High School, and I also got my master's in American government at San Francisco State about 5 years ago.
Oh, good.
So I've been teaching part-time at San Jose State,
Fabulous.
Foothill, and De Anza College.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Yes. It must be interesting teaching government in such a diverse and evolving communities. We have so many recent immigrants, first and second generation immigrants among the student population. What's that experience been like? Do you feel like you're helping them understand what it means to be an American? And
so in the late 90s when I started, the diversity was Portuguese Americans in Santa Clara, which we know is,
we still have a Portuguese parade in Mountain View.
That's right, absolutely. But now, we have over 60% of our students at Santa Clara High School alone are non-Caucasian.
Right.
And the fastest growing is Latino and specifically Filipino and Asian American group.
Wow.
And it's just great to celebrate diversity. And when we talk about diversity, we don't just talk about race or ethnicity. We have a Gay Straight Alliance Club at our high school.
Right.
So celebrating, marriage equality.
Yes.
Transgender bathrooms is an issue now that we're going to offer at our school district as well. So, you can't be free unless you're equal, and it's just evolved so quickly.
Right. Yeah, and the LGBT rights front, I think it's been very helpful development, especially around here, that the kids in high school, as early as high school, have that support. I'm sure that's been a very positive development for them. What do you tell the young people about what is the focus? Is the focus on the structure of government, or the history, or a little bit of both? What about their role, and is it more civics or kind of structure?
So I asked them, is the minimum wage important to you? They say universally yes. Is affording college important to you? They say yes.
Right.
Is it one day actually getting a job in your occupation or your field of study? Is yes. And then lastly, do you want to be a homeowner one day? And I say all of those things people at the local, county, state, and federal level decide.
Right.
And the reason we talk about issues for retired people is they show up and vote.
Right.
So if you don't show up and vote, you know what, these issues are not going to be discussed by politicians, because politicians talk to the voters.
Right.
And we saw that, good or bad. We saw it in the Bernie campaign,
Right.
A lot of young people getting involved because he talked about things that was in their wheelhouse, affordable college, etc. And I just hope that sustains, because people don't realize, especially young people, we don't just vote every 4 years, we vote every 2 years. And there's this thing called a primary as well, and there's a gubernatorial election coming up. So I hope the turnout.
Levels.
That's right.
I agree with you. It's one of our focuses at the county party is basically the midterm election, in particular focusing on those voters who vote regularly in presidential elections, but regularly skip that midterm election, which is so important. It's one of the reasons why our party does, loses some ground every couple of years. Well, that's interesting. What pushback have you had from students? Do you get any cynicism? Are they too young to have cynicism, or is it more that their issues that they care about are different than folks?
I think some of the students, because we live in such an area where Democrats are so strong,
right,
and our views also are reflected in our elected leaders. Very few Republicans
right.
are elected at the office, but there are
Thank
some.
goodness.
Yeah, there you go. but there are some people that were passionate about Donald Trump, good or bad,
right.
and some of those students feeling, do we have teachers and environments where I could say, I support Donald Trump and not getting made fun of, etc. So there's
right.
a striking balance, especially as a teacher who I clearly have opinion on Donald Trump,
right.
and it isn't a favorable one,
yeah.
to try and be balanced in the classroom. And it can be a challenge sometimes.
I imagine it is, yes. Yeah. And then there's the question of, everybody should, of course, be able to take their positions. He himself engaged in politics in a way that I think is challenging, must have been challenging for government teachers all over the country, in the sense that enforcing the idea of having differences, but expressing them with civility and in appropriate ways, and achieving your goals through appropriate means. And it must be a challenge just to have a class when one would want to tell them it's important to engage in civic discourse, but a campaign that was really not of that ilk was so successful.
Yeah, I try and tell them there's at least two sides to every issue, and sometimes in politics there's more than two sides.
Right.
So before you tell me why you're with Hillary, just also tell me why some people were with Donald, and then give your opinion.
Right.
Because it's so hard sometimes to let them have a balanced view, especially with the broadcast media now, where you go to your echo chambers, right? Where you go to MSNBC if you're liberal and Fox News if you're conservative.
Right.
And very little do you see crossover there.
Yeah.
And the other challenge is the way our students, 18 to 24-year-olds communicate now, Periscope, Facebook Live, Snapchat. I'm just comfortable now finally with PowerPoint.
Right, exactly. Yes, I'm sure it's hard to keep up.
Fastly evolving,
Yes, yes. Well, your son's very young, so I'm sure you'll get into the whole social media mode pretty quick. But has that been a challenge? When do the kids find information on social media or the internet that isn't actually very accurate and question you about it? Or
yeah, the word fake news now is becoming something in our lexicon that I've never heard of before.
Right.
And it's the idea of students having more information at their fingertips, but being able to cipher through. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's authentic. And how do we find authentic versus fraudulent in our social networking sites, etc.?
I see.
Yeah, so I think that's a challenge.
Yeah, it must be. It must be. Well, thank you for our discussion so far. We're going to take a break in just a moment, and then when we come back, I'd like to talk a little bit about Santa Clara and your experience there, the issues you're facing, and the challenges of local government, and some other things about what you have coming up.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm United States Senator Barbara Boxer. Thank you for watching Democratic Television.
Well, we're back with Dominic Caserta from the Santa Clara City Council. So, Dominic, you're actually the Vice Mayor currently in City Council, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful.
It sounds like something like from Game of Thrones, Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor, that's right. Yeah, you only have to kill off one person to become mayor.
There you go.
You heard it here.
You said that, not me.
Right, exactly. Well, what does the Vice Mayor position give you an opportunity to do things on the council?
Yeah, like recently we do a lot of work through committees like they do in Congress, and I was the ad hoc chair of the Affordable Housing Nexus Study Committee, and our recommendations came to the council last week. And affordable housing is such a huge issue. So many of my students want to live in Santa Clara when they graduate college and have to move out of the area. And we're not just talking moving to Milpitas, we're talking moving to Tracy's, etc., to work in Silicon Valley.
Right. Yes, I was talking to a staff member of a state representative, and a government employee, and somebody who's doing community service, and we were talking about he had grown up in Milpitas, and at some point in the conversation, I asked him, where he was living, and he didn't mean to be disrespectful, but he almost chuckled and said, "Well, I'm living with my mom and dad."
Yeah.
The reality is that anybody my age with a government level of income, that's the only way you could live anywhere near here. So that's kind of rough, and I think that problem might be getting a little worse. I know that there have been press accounts recently of folks living in mobile homes and various streets in the area. How has that played out in Santa Clara? Your study you mentioned, is it does it more define the challenge, or were there some ideas there?
Yeah, I viewed it as an opportunity, and we did a great job. We had the development community and the business community, and a lot of affordable housing groups, renters groups, Mid-Penn Peninsula groups, labor groups at our last 4 months, and we did a great job last week. We had a nice compromise position on affordable housing impact studies and fees, and I really think it's going to help, and it's only one part of it, but I think it'll help a little, creating more affordability in our city. But being on the council, land use issues is a controversial issue too. People want more housing, but not in my backyard. Right. So how do we get development that works for neighbors that are already there? Yes,
and I know part of that challenge is environment too, and traffic. People worry that if we build more housing, that we'll have more traffic, and that'll be problematic. But people do need to live somewhere, I think, is part of the challenge.
Yeah, and let's hopefully, with the voters voting in November, that we get BART to Santa Clara, and not in 40 years, but in the next 10 to 12 years.
Wow.
So hopefully that will happen.
Yeah, that would help. The affordable housing impact fee you mentioned, how would that work? Is it implemented, or is it something that's proposed?
So our city attorney is creating an ordinance right now, which is like a city law, and that'll be brought to us in the next few weeks. And then, a 6-month phase-in period, and developers will come and pay a fee. And with the wind down of redevelopment agencies, it's a real challenge to find that extra source of revenue for things of that nature.
Right, and you've been in city government during the time of that change, haven't you? I mean,
yes.
How has that impacted Santa Clara as an example?
Oh, it impacted us tragically. We did RDA really well, and it really helped us the north of Bay Shore, and we were a city that really benefited from redevelopment. And I think our citizens realize how important county government is, because they were the agency with redevelopment there.
I see.
Yeah. So
how were the funds being used? You mentioned north of Bay Shore. Was there a development there, a housing development? Or?
Yeah. So what we had to do is we had to sell off amazing parcels like the Hilton property, etc. I mean, and we're only getting a little of that money back.
I see.
Yeah, so that was one area that was a redevelopment north of Bay Shore, and the other one is Franklin Mall area, also that we had in the redevelopment zone as well.
I see. For a lot of local communities in Santa Clara County, I know that it's the structure of government in the state of California is a challenge, because property taxes, we're an affluent area with high property values, but that money goes to the state and comes back with strings attached, and not necessarily all of it. What are the drivers for revenue on the revenue side of Santa Clara?
Yeah, I'm also the chair of the Economic Development Committee, and in Santa Clara, our forefathers did a great job of creating opportunities for businesses like, not only Great American, Levi Stadium, but also great companies like Intel's of the world in their backyard in Santa Clara. Right. So we got to strike a balance also making a city that is conducive to business, especially in the north of Bay Shore area. Right. And I really believe with Levi Stadium creating an economic engine and spur, we're going to have great developments like the related companies building almost 400-acre development. Right. Once the lawsuit with San Jose is finally settled, and it'll be Santana Row times 10. Yeah. It'll be the new place. It'll be a city within the city of Santa Clara.
Yeah, there has been a lot of growth and development there, and I know there's been a lot going on at the stadium, concerts and shows, and of course the 49ers could do better, but...
yeah, they'll win more than 2 games, I hope, next year.
Fabulous. I'm sure that'll help Santa Clara as well. Good. And now there's also been a county-wide movement and sort of a regional movement that I think was thought at a time to be aggressive, but has really been coming to fruition to increase the minimum wage.
Right.
Has Santa Clara participated in that?
Yes, I'm very proud. That was something I was passionate about. A year and a half ago, we actually took the boldest step. We raised the minimum wage to $11 an hour, and that was the highest in the county. And then other cities have, pardon the pun, trumped us since then. So we created a regional movement. Instead of saying cities leapfrogging each other, let's all have something coordinated. So 6 cities have already said they'll go to 15 by 19, and we hope to be the 7th city Tuesday night. And I really believe that if minimum wage earners have more discretionary money, they'll spend more money, which will be good for businesses. And if businesses sell more goods and services, they'll pay more taxes, which will increase our infrastructure, etc. So I think it's actually raising the minimum wage is pro-business.
Yes, I agree with you. But you must have, they don't come to me, the businesses, then you must have had to deal with Santa Clara businesses, the chamber, the local chamber and local businesses. Have they been receptive to that?
So we did a great job of not throwing this down their throats. We said for 3 months we'll reach out to stakeholders like small business owners and the chamber, and we had them a chance to be heard, because sometimes people just want to be heard. And we're going to have a phase-in period, so it'll be in 18, it'll be a raise, and then in 19 as well, with CPA after that. So predictability and giving those folks an opportunity to be heard. Now, still with that said, There will be people Tuesday night that will say this is bad for business, and that's their right. That's part of the democratic process. It's just I disagree.
Do you feel like you'll have the votes for the
I would be surprised if it's not unanimous.
Right.
I really do.
Good. That's a great statement. I hope you get that.
Thank you.
Fabulous. Good. Challenges of city government. A lot of these issues like housing and transportation, you mentioned BART, the local government doesn't have as much direct control over as your own police department or city services. What have you found to be challenges of coordinating with other communities for regional planning and just having a good solution for problems that cross city boundaries?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, for example, we border Sunnyvale and we border San Jose and other cities, but it's not like when I take my wife tonight to Santana Row that it says you're now entering San Jose airspace.
Right. Yes.
We need to have more regional leadership and thinking on that level and realize what benefits San Jose also helps Santa Clara and vice versa.
Right.
So instead of this litigious society that sometimes we're in, I just hope we have leaders that realize that if this works for Cupertino, this also helps Santa Clara.
Right.
So I'm hoping, that we see more regional leadership. So
yeah, that's great. Well, so speaking of regional solutions to problems, I know that that you have an interest in county government. Why don't you say a bit about that? You're actually running for county supervisor.
Yeah, I cannot believe our great supervisor Ken Yeager will be termed out. It's almost been 12 years,
right.
And I've decided 6 months ago to throw my hat in the ring, shall you say?
Yeah.
And obviously with the RDA wind down, we see that county government is so imperative to the success of Santa Clara.
Right.
Now, Santa Clara, the District 4, it's one of the largest parts of the district, and we haven't had anyone from the Santa Clara City Council ever represent us there. Wow. And I think, we deserve that. We deserve a seat at the table, and I'm proud to have the support of a lot of my colleagues in Santa Clara on the City Council. And, we're doing a great job. I got a great tan right now, Bill, because I've been walking precincts, not because I've been vacationing.
The election's next year, but you've already been on the road knocking on doors.
Yeah, today, in fact, we have 26 volunteers walking this morning for us, and
good.
So it's going really well.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Good. As a teacher, do you feel like you connect well with young people as a candidate?
Yeah, in fact, 20 of the 26 people I would say today are under 25 years old.
Wonderful.
So they're former students of mine.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, so it's kind of like how Mike Honda, got a lot of young people saying.
I remember. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm proud that some of my former students want to get involved. Now the question is, can we get them out and vote? Right, GOTV in a June primary.
Yes.
So that'll be the challenge.
Yes, exactly. And I know the party will be working on that effort as well. The state made an interesting change to allow pre-registration of 16 and 17-year-olds. I'm curious, as a high school teacher, do you think young people will be receptive to that, or at least some of them? I wonder if it will help.
Yeah, we actually started at Santa Clara Unified School District 10 years ago that we would actually devote class time to give students an opportunity to register to vote, because the biggest obstacle is registering.
Right.
And as you know, young people are so transient. When you move, you need to re-register as well. So I don't make it worth points because you have the freedom of not to register to vote.
Right.
But having that just simple 10 minutes of class time to allow them to register to vote, we've seen an uptick, at least in my community. For example, in Santa Clara, we had over 80% turnout, and countywide it was record turnout as well. So
good.
I think part of that was that. Another part is the great, now that we get free postage for absentee ballots. So I give the county credit for that.
I think I agree with you. They've done a good job with that. So some of the issues the county deals with, I know they're a pretty important service provider. Some things play out where they're not really in competition with, but they have a different perspective than the cities. So, for example, every once in a while, the city of San Jose will clear a homeless encampment out.
That's right.
But the county's really more about providing the services to support people. So that's an interesting, different perspective. Are you interested in getting involved in that side of things?
Yeah, I mean, land use issues at a city level is one of our major powers, and it can be confrontational.
Yes.
Now, they will be deciding land use issues like what are we going to do with the fairgrounds, great place for shared experiences.
Right.
But I'm really looking forward. I mean, most of us don't think of VMC, Valley Medical Center, as somewhere we'd go. But if you or I got shot or burned or a trauma issue, we'd be there.
They have those specialized
Absolutely.
services.
So we really need to continue to empower those great services. I'm a board member of the Healthier Kids Foundation. Kids can't learn if they don't have access to dental care, for example.
Right.
And we do a great job of doing that. So those are some of my, again, passions in my philanthropic work that led me to decide to run for this versus something else.
Right. Do you feel that the current county leadership has done the right thing in taking on the Trump administration? They've been sort of more than, they haven't just said we're going to do what we want to do. They've actively instituted lawsuits and things. Do you think they've done a good job with that?
I'm so proud of them. I mean, Dave, Cindy's, all five of them, Mike, Joe, and of course Ken.
Yeah.
I mean, they were the first leaders, not only state, but countrywide on this. We joined as a city an amicus curiae brief with them.
Oh, fabulous.
And I'm just so proud of them because, you know what? Just because the federal government says something doesn't mean it's constitutional.
Right, I agree. So the national level government and what's going on with healthcare debate currently, there seems to be a likelihood that they'll pull back on their support for the states. Do you think that'll be challenging for the county if you were to be in county government to deal with that environment?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, we have, I think, 98% of our, especially children, that have health care in the county.
Right.
And we got to get that other 2%.
Right.
But absolutely, I mean, when they keep talking about the Affordable Care Act, they're going to repeal it. They don't talk about replacing it. That's all going to be pressures, and that's why you need to have an educated citizenry involved and demand that change is done at the local level.
Right.
And that's where the county can be a safeguard and push back to the draconian efforts of the Trump administration, as seen by Dave Cortese and Cindy and Ken's leadership on this issue.
Right. I agree. It's a very important and it will be in a challenging environment. I think fortunately we have a good, strong Democratic leadership at the state level as well, and we are a very affluent state, and so it's probably just a matter of figuring out whether then how to make it happen and having the commitment to it, as you say. So, well, good. What things do you think, what are the top things you want to do at county level? What would your priorities be?
So I think public safety is key still. I mean, we cannot feel safe and free unless we really feel safe. So I want to continue to empower, the DSA. We obviously have county fire. Our DA, Jeff Rosen, is truly the people's DA. I think we need some reforms in the sheriff's office that need to be followed, those recommendations. So public safety is number one. And then number two for me, it's just realizing that citizens, a connection to the county level is more than just paying property taxes.
Right.
Only 9% of citizens know who their supervisor is, but issues like Valley Medical Center, those are so important issues to our citizenry at the county level that we need to not only educate them, but empower them. And then lastly, we all need to do this in a fiscally responsible manner because taxpayer money needs to be, watchdogged, and so those are things that I hope to do. And then, of course, lastly, supporting Measure A that we did last year and providing more affordable housing while protecting taxpayer dollars. I want to make sure that is transparently done.
Those are great priorities. Thank you for sharing that information with us today. Thank you for watching DTV. Give us a call at 408-445-9500 or visit our website at www.sccdp.org. Help us to make a difference. We'll see you on the campaign trail.